Yes, I know exactly what you mean. The yeah, I lost. I'll tell you what. No, I was gonna say I
I'll
lost.
tell you
I was
what.
gonna say I was gonna say a joke, and then I realized like I didn't want to be on the record saying this. I was gonna say, looking at those pictures made me lose faith in God because after I saw
Oh
that girl's
no,
face, I was like, oh,
dude.
you look at her and tell me there's a God, right? But then it kind of goes into my whole theme that I'm going to
Yeah, see, that's the thing is
go
I want
into
to
here.
address what you just said. Like, but again, knowing how do I don't even know how to address it properly. It's like knowing what you told me off air, reminding me what you've said already. I know it's going to be very confusing for the audience, but you said to me, "Oh, Jerry, this is one of those things where like I said something and you might have even been on the episode, blah blah blah. I'll say binary, right? Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember
Mm-hmm.
what you said
Mm-hmm.
now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because then I'm thinking, there's this sort of potential situation or conspiracy. I don't know what you would call it. People, some people believe that uh, let's just say AI is demonic. I think
Yeah.
that's there's so do you
Yeah,
see where
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
tie-in would be? Like what we're about to talk about with that? Like it. Anyway, we just
Yeah, no, I
yeah.
totally agree, and that's why I think this is kind of like. I mean, I know we sort of got back into the paranormal last week, but
Hmm.
this week is going to be full blown for the people who come in and ask, "Is this show even about Bigfoot?" This is going to be for them because we're going to go full blown paranormal activity on that guy specifically, whose name I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Uh,
Poor guy.
I wish I would have written it down. I would have been like, I would have specifically called him out and tagged him on YouTube. I don't know if you can do that or not. Like, I know
I'm not
YouTube is
sure.
supposedly a social media thing, but it's not really a social media. Like, you
Why don't we
can't
do those
connect with
shorts,
people on
Tom?
social media, right? Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
why
you
don't we
can
do those
post.
shorts?
I've seen. Yeah, you know what? I've commented on a couple of them, like our boy from up in Canada, the predator hunter or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You heard about that? How now they're like, if the cops don't show up, they can't, or it'll get taken off of YouTube. Have you heard that?
That's what it is?
Yeah, it's like if the cops don't show up, YouTube will have the
To
person have the.
legitimize the situation,
Yeah, I
I guess.
guess I don't know. Which I'm like,
Hmm.
where's the consistency there? Because like,
Yeah.
what if I were like, okay, here's one. What if I went up to a Trump supporter in the
Hmm.
streets and I just
Right.
like berated him about him being a Trump supporter and
Sure.
oh well
Yeah,
you're.
the old. Do you remember the old when you were wearing a Trump hat? Remember that?
Yeah. What if we
That thing.
did that?
Hmm.
And like
Okay.
the cops didn't get called, obviously, or they might, I don't know. But like, what I bet YouTube would let that stay up, right? But
Oh, for
like, if
sure.
you go
Of
out
course.
and you pursue pedophiles and
Right.
you berate
Excuse
them,
me, Tom.
I'm sorry, go
Tom.
ahead. Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't want to be so specific, but aren't they called? Fuck. After that whole setup, I can't remember what they tell people to call them now. What is it?
Predators, pedophiles
Adults
in
who like
training.
children or what
Minors,
is it?
minor attracted children. Yeah.
There it is. Minor attracted persons, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Oh,
sorry.
persons. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Are you
Minor
assuming a
attracted
gender?
persons of color. MAPOC.
Dude, okay, look, I don't want to get
You gotta
political. I
get
don't want to get us
inclusive.
off track or whatever, but the politics. You know how the speaker, the press secretary,
Yeah.
she's a
Yeah, she's a
bisexual.
MAPOC, right?
Well, she's a yeah. Well, wait. So she actually that I don't know. She's a minority of minority, but I don't know if she's that much of a minority of a minority. If I remember correctly, she's a lesbian or bisexual person of color, female, right? So,
Yes.
like,
LGBT, POC, WOC.
right? Yeah, yeah. Sesame Street, the whole thing. And so, I guess the point I'm. Do you remember what? Did you see in her press conference? She said anybody who doesn't go along with the majority is an extremist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that, and I thought, so the three times minority is telling everybody who's in the minority that they're an extremist.
Yeah. I would
That's
say
I mean,
so.
that's really like.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is 1984. The whole thing is, but that in particular, I'm like, wow, either she's a fucking retard or she's a real bitch and just wants to
She's
dig. You know what I mean?
incredibly oblivious. Like you saw where she was. Um, like very hypocritical. And I'm not, and I'll
That
say,
doesn't
and
make
I can,
sense to me, Tom. Tom.
I can back that up. Hold on. Remember the other day? I don't watch them. I just see the cliff notes on Disclose. Somebody, Ducey, right? He asked her,
Oh yeah.
why, if she believes that anybody who continues to push this Biden stole the election thing is a threat to Homeland Security. She and he came back at her with her own tweet from when Trump was elected, where she said Trump stole the election. So and her response was basically, well, it was different, right? I'm different. My situation was different.
Yeah.
And so
Tom, that was real, Tom.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I still think that I beyond a shadow of a doubt, Biden did cheat for this election. Whether or not I care. Well, yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't know any better. He was just out there doing his thing, and everybody else was doing.
I'm just having my ice cream, man.
Yeah. Oh, come on, Jack.
Come on, man.
I don't work for you, Jack. Right? Your AR-47s.
You want to get into a wrestling match right now?
I've never seen a more oblivious person. He really reminds me of like the legend of Abraham Lincoln. Like if you listen to, or if you read about some of the things that Abraham Lincoln said when he was running.
The Vampire Slayer, you mean?
Yeah, the other legends where he was an idiot.
Sorry.
He said like Abraham Lincoln was kind of like an idiot and not a very good president, not a very handsome man. Like he was not publicly you know how like you expect a president to be attractive for one reason or another, right? Like they have to have some kind of appeal, just like any public figure, and that everybody will broadly appreciate.
Was very well proven. That it was in the two debates with Kennedy and Nixon. Now I'm not.
You're talking about Lincoln. Lincoln when Lincoln was debating against them.
Yes.
The eternal president.
Well, first of all, isn't there that weird connection where like Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln and Lincoln had a secretary with Kennedy
on the same day or some shit.
Yeah, 9/11 or whatever.
That never happened either.
Those are the twin towers that fell. For real.
Behind you, you're commemorating the September.
This is
Tower 7.
This is this is Kennedy and this is
Lincoln
over here. Yeah. One in
and Tower is that Tower 7 in the background that I see?
Yeah. That's actually that's the Dark Tower. We are today sponsored by Stephen King.
I thought I was thinking the other towers from, remember Lord of the Rings, the twin towers?
Sure, the two towers, yeah.
The twin towers. we went that movie came out right shortly after the Twin Towers situation happened. So you would hear people accidentally say, "Oh, we're gonna go check out the new Lord of the Ring movie, the Lord of the Ring Twin Towers," right? And you'd be like, "Really, the Twin Towers?" But no, the Abraham Lincoln. Like I was gonna say, Abraham Lincoln. He would say these absurd things when he was running for president, or even the Senate. I think he was a senator first. But he said,
"I'm never going to get shot."
he said, "Try and get me from the back, John Wilkes Booth." And they're like, "Who's John Wilkes Booth?" Like he was oddly specific in his 20s about who was going to kill him.
That's really that's just that strange.
That's another coincidence, a strange conspiracy. He said he like would wrestle people in the audience, right?
Streets?
Like during like in the streets when he was doing his campaigning, he would like threaten. He would because he was a wrestler. And he was very tall and gangly or whatever, and so he could like fight people from a distance, even though they were like right up on him. But he said one time something along the lines of, "Any of you want to lick? Come wet your horns," or whatever. Like he'd say some really weird shit, but then he would like whoop people's asses in the streets just because they'd challenge him while he was campaigning.
Yeah,
and he's like, "I think I could take you," and he'd fight these people in the streets. So it's like you look at
this now then. I mean, given the information you've provided, can I just say,
sure,
I want to vote for him again.
I want to vote for the guy who threatens
I want to vote
beat
for Lincoln again.
Streets.
You know what I mean? I had a chance, and I was lucky enough to. Obviously, we only got the half term or whatever.
Well, one and a half, right?
Yeah, 1.5. Yeah. I wasn't old enough for the first one. You know what I mean?
Oh, you caught the tail end of.
Yeah, I caught the tail end. I got the sequel,
Lincoln presidency.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
He had, I don't know, like people hold Lincoln up on a pedestal, others shoot him in the back of the head.
Mostly just his brains.
Yeah, people hold the remaining, what's left of Lincoln or whatever, in his top hat.
That's right.
What a terrible incident, right?
How are you even, come on.
tasteless humor. But what I'm saying is
No, his
Abraham
brains
Lincoln
tasted actually a lot like.
you see Joe Biden with an ice cream cone with Lincoln's brains splattered all
Lincoln's
over
brains.
it. You know, stop spreading this big lie, Jack.
Come on, come on, Abe.
Come on, Abe. But anyways, yeah, a lot
rub
of
my legs.
If you look at people used to rub my top hat, my first skin top hat in the pool, and they would watch the hair go down and then come back up. I had really hairy top hat. But if you look at some of his stuff that he said even before he was president, a lot of it is comparable to Biden. You know, you look at it, it's like, that's not something that I would, you know, when I hear that, I think that person's an idiot. You know, just like anybody who looks at anything that, and the same was true of W, and the same was true. I mean, you might see some stuff from Trump too that he said you're like, what? They're like, you kind of hold presidents to a higher standard, right? You expect them to speak intelligently and not say like, George Bush said something along the lines of, I believe that human beings and fish could coexist peacefully. Right? And like, when you're working hard to put food on your family, right? You know, you hear all these things that he says, and you're just like, that is a stupid person. But then you realize that all those people they're just kind of put. So it makes me wonder if Abraham Lincoln was just actually a stooge that was put into position, because he was not a popular person, and he was kind of a goofball, and they needed somebody to kind of be there for the Civil War that they knew was brewing, so they put old Abe Lincoln in. So the same thing is true of Joe Biden. They're like, well, let's put this fucking idiot in charge, so that when the world goes to shit, we can be like, well, it was just Joe Biden, and he was clearly retarded. So do I believe that the election was stolen by Joe Biden's people and he was implemented as a stooge, a useful idiot? Yes. Do I know why they did it? Other than what I just said, I don't know what we're expecting or what we're waiting on. But yeah, I would say that's probably the same. That's probably the same situation that Abe Lincoln had.
Well, I guess we could hypothesize all we want, but I'm just sitting here thinking, you know, with all the money that that is still flowing into Ukraine, after we have proof and evidence that he and his son have unscrupulous dealings in the Ukraine for fucking years. It's like, oh, yeah, there's nothing sketchy about this at all. By the way, they just asked for another $47 billion.
Yeah. Well, they're winning. And we good old Mitch McConnell. Support that.
That's true. Good old Mitch McConnell said it's just a drop in the bucket.
I don't give a shit.
Compared to what we should. Well, it's not anymore. You know.
I'm just waiting for our money to be worth less than what is it called? World of Warcraft money. Remember, like Venezuela, where they were.
Yes.
Because here's the thing, and I want to talk about, because this was one of the things that I want to talk about, because I can't drink too much tonight because I have my ketamine infusion. I had to move it around because I'm subbing on Friday, but I have my ketamine infusion. What a busy
guy.
Tomorrow. I know. I miss the days where I could just not do shit. But I was thinking about it today because I was like, man, like I guess I was talking to my sons about it and how I brought up something about some tyrannical person. I don't remember who. Oh no, you know who I was talking about, Genghis Khan, and how he killed like so many people that it supposedly cooled the planet. And I said, and that's weird, right? That they're like doing all this shit now to kill off as many people as they possibly can in order to probably cool the planet. And and I guess my middle son asked something about Hitler, and I said, no, this is a different guy, and because he's still trying to figure out history. It's a lot to take in for a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, all these. And I said something about Hitler. I was like, so I got to thinking about him and how the money in Germany became absolutely worthless, and that's kind of what led to Hitler's rise. And now when I go to ketamine, right, I've told you this before, it kind of like brings up your deepest subconscious, and you have to like deal with that stuff in real time. And also sometimes I wonder if perhaps I'm receiving some kind of nudge from something external, right? And how I read that thing about ketamine being ghost juice or whatever. Oh yeah. And how I'd be able to like venture into the spirit world and all that. And So I start to wonder. I have this recurring thing that will pop into my head because, and it probably has something to do with the fact that I have that techno Hitler song on my playlist, where it's like it's Hitler's speeches put to techno music, and so it kind of gets me onto that. Maybe that's probably what it is. But
I was gonna say, now that you've kind of
I've just solved my.
there.
Never mind, this joke doesn't work anymore. No, but I'll always get onto this thing where I'm thinking, I'm like, man, you know what we need is another Hitler, right? Not necessarily like a copy and paste, but we need somebody who is like an extremist, who's willing to be vilified and hated. We need a Thanos. We need somebody who's willing to do something big and
Tom,
to fix the world, right? Go ahead.
We have enough failed artists. What are you doing?
Well, I'm one of them.
Know.
I have not been.
We already know.
I've sold a couple T-shirts, right? So I've technically sold enough to where I can call myself a professional artist. I won a competition with Titmouse, the company that makes cartoons for Adult Swim, like Venture Brothers, with the drawing that I've done and shit. So technically, awesome. I can call myself a professional artist, but I don't. So I'm technically a failed artist. One and the same with in that way. I share another similarity with Adolf Hitler. The other, of course, being I'm like an extreme anti-Semite. But the no, I often think about it. I'm like, we need an extremist. We need somebody to come in and kind of like be willing to sacrifice themselves as a public menace that, is just like largely hated by the powers that be, probably be killed by the CIA and by George Soros and company and Schwab and them. But it needs to come in and needs to do like this radical extreme agenda where they clean up the streets with little to no regard for life lost and the consequences, the emotional damage and consequences and stuff. And then I think, and of course that moves on to what if that's me? Because like I'm sure Adolf Hitler wasn't, a young man like, one day I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna kill however many hundred of Jews, right? Because it's not 6 million, right? It started out as like 10 billion. And
not on his own, whatever.
But he never thought that. He had to go to ketamine, and then ketamine told him, "Hey, you're gonna be that guy." But I'll have that thing where it runs through my head. I'm like, am I supposed to be that guy? Am I supposed to sacrifice my own image, right? And be hated and be killed by the CIA in order to push this radical agenda to kill all the witches, or to kill all the or to end transgenderism, right? And to bring bullying back into the schools so that we can end the LGBT menace, right? And I think about that often. I'm like, man, I was thinking about that again today. I was like, man, that's maybe I am supposed to be that guy, because you never know. Who knows?
No, you don't know what you're calling it, really.
Until it happens, and you're like, wow, that, and then you're like sitting in the eagle's nest, and you're like, well, I guess I got to shoot myself in the head. Or no, then you hop into a submarine and you head on over to Argentina. But yeah, that's I don't know. That really got my gears turning today about taking up an extremist platform as a politician in the United States. What do you think about that, Jerry?
Well,
Would you vote for me?
Well, of course. I mean, it's it's your friend. You know what I mean? Like, hey, look, it's one of those things where you go, look, I may not believe everything this guy's saying, but he and I are bros. That kind of thing. No, of course I would. Yeah, and look, there are those callings. Look, I mean, do you think Tom Hanks woke up one day and he said, look, I'm not only going to be the face of America, but underneath that face is a pedophile. You know what I mean? Did you think he thought that? Like, they came to him, Tom, hey, listen, hey, how's it going? Yeah, you remember how you wanted to be an actor? He's like, well, yes, I've been trying very much. And they said, well, we've got this show for you. And if you can handle this being the start to your success, we know that you're the guy for us. And you go, okay, well, what is it? Well, you have to want to be a roommate with another man, okay? And in order to gain access to an affordable place, you have to dress as women all the time and act really gay. Like, for how long? Well, as long as the show goes. I mean, at least the season, So then what? Well, then down the line, you're going to marry a woman, Rita Wilson. Wow, that sounds like a very nice, plain Jane name. Yes, in the show, we're going to have her talk about witches and witchery. Really? That's wow. That sounds a little evil. Yeah, but it's only her character. You know. And then they go, oh wow, okay. And then yeah, so what is her career like? Well, she's gonna be kind of an actress, kind of a director, but she'll also be in a Tales from the Crypt episode, okay? And she plays a vampire pretending to be a human that murders people and eats them and stuff and kills them. Oh, and so she'll be the mother of my children. Yes, and your son will be an amazing rap star who knows who you really are.
Chet Hanks. Yeah.
Yeah, and he'll know who you really are, but no one will take him seriously because his name is Chet Hanks.
Spelled with an X.
Yeah.
I do want to interrupt you, Jerry, before we lose him, because he's probably already left. Bodai did show up today. He was asking about, that's who it was asking
are you
about.
Serious?
He's here, or he was here for a moment, but he said he was mad. He got mad because he said, did this dude daydream longing for another Hitler? And then he said, holy crap, this is some nonsense. And is he denying the Holocaust? First of all, I do want to correct the record. I did not deny the Holocaust. All right. And that's a misconception.
No.
People often accuse me of denying the Holocaust. I did not deny the Holocaust. I'm just questioning the numbers. Which, you know, if you can prove to me that 6 million Jews if you can prove to me in any way other than, well, this guy said so, I'll eat my hat right now. But you can't, because the numbers don't line up. And now I'm not saying did I say no Jews were killed? No, I didn't say that. I said hundreds, perhaps. But I said that's like the low end, right? It could have been more.
Also,
but my assumption is at least hundreds, right? Because there's some kind of record.
I just have to say, first of all, the guy's got to get a feel for the room. We're laughing the whole time. I mean, is sarcasm, if nothing else. Let's say Tom has his own opinions that lead more towards what this guy's saying, but we're able to be sarcastic. I mean, is that...
Yeah, you're not allowed to be sarcastic about the Holocaust, apparently. Or about Hitler existing.
Well, I mean, and then the second thing I want to say, he should look up, oh goodness, I'd have to remember the name, but there's this, I've never heard of this before, and I don't want to get on a tangent, because of course we're actually going to talk about spooky stuff.
Yeah, we do have a show today.
But there was apparently, after the war, a spot where the Americans, the West, literally put millions of German soldiers in camps, and with no protection, like no, forestry, no housing, no nothing, and then just let them starve to death and die. And that was in the millions. You know what?
And I do have to, but it was overshadowed.
So what I'm saying is as far as
by the hundreds of Jews that died. Monster Radio makes a good point. He says, and we can tie that back to this. Not that I'm saying that Monster Radio is a Holocaust denier, because he's not. He's actually a good person. He, unlike myself, but he said, I've been saying we need a Palpatine, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you see the video the Daily Wire made of Biden's speech overlaid on
the Death Star
episode
or whatever
3?
Oh yeah, when he takes power. And he's like, so this is how democracy dies, with thunderous applause. So
liberty, my friend.
Oh, I'm sorry, democracy. Who even cares about that? But so
it's the worst
we could say this here, instead of using Hitler and the hundreds of Jews that died, or were murdered. I'm sorry, I don't want to take away from the Holocaust by saying they died of natural causes or anything.
Could you imagine if he was still hanging out, by the way, and just not answering, getting madder this whole time?
Probably. He's probably no. He's probably already reported us. We're probably gonna get cut down. He's gonna write to his Jedi buddies, right? Because now here's what we're gonna do. Instead of saying Hitler and the Jews, we're going to say Palpatine and the remaining Jedi, right? And Order 66 was perpetrated by the clone troopers, who would have been we can compare to the SS, right? Or the Nazi officers and such. And the concentration camps, well, there were none. It was just death camp wherever they lie. Leave them where they lie, right? So let's say this. Instead of saying we need a new Hitler, I will agree, Monster Radio says we need a new Palpatine. I did in my defense. I said Thanos too, right? So like in Thanos,
You
right?
did,
Yeah. So I mean, this guy, I don't know why he's so upset. Bodai. We're back down to $6.99 now because Bodai left us.
Oh no! You know what's so funny?
Sure
I was going to say this was the longest streak.
Yeah,
since
we've
I
been
joined.
up above 700 for a hot minute.
We're down to 701 though.
Well, that's okay. Bodai.
We are down to 701.
We'll miss you, Bo.
I do want to also address the other comment from Mr. Radio about Tom Hanks.
Mm-hmm.
Again, everybody's like, "Oh, he's the awesome face of the blah, blah." Dude." His big movie, one of his first ones, it was a pedophile fantasy. I mean, it was a young
so he
boy
could get up and he could fuck
trapped
an older woman.
Yeah, it was a young boy trapped in a man's body, and she knew it, and she fucked him. She knew it was a young boy and fucked him. I wanted to say that like a lot, to give a little perspective.
You know what I will say though
movie.
About that circumstance is if she was, obviously she's kind of in a position where we would accuse her of pedophilia because she's technically fucking a kid in a man's body, but it's a
position doggy or no?
Say again.
Is that position doggy or no?
I don't know. I doubt he would even know what to do with it. But people always want to argue about. Well, we yell about the male pedophiles who are like preying on. If it's a gym teacher and it's an ugly gym teacher who's preying on like teenage girls or whatever, we're like, lock him up, throw away the key. But then it's like a hot English teacher who preys on, I don't know, a 17, 16-year-old maybe. And we're just like, yeah, we kind of like brush it off. Granted, we're all like, well, I mean, yeah, she's guilty, but we're not like as disgusted by it because in reality,
we let them get their jobs back. All the time.
Yeah, well, they end up referring to them as, having sex with rather than graphically, painfully raping or whatever. That's which is like the verbiage that they use. Which who knows? Maybe the girls are into it as much as the gym teacher. I don't know, but I can't speak for them. All I know is as like when I see these women, it's rarely an ugly woman. It's always like a hot.
That is
teacher.
weird, right?
Right? So it's like, I feel for the kid. I'm like, well, yeah, she's guilty, but like, good for you. Because like, if I were that kid, I would be, I'd
You're the South Park episode.
Have you ever watched that show, A Teacher? Right? Like, it's that one with the kind of like monkey faced looking girl. I don't remember her name, but she's got like a weird face, but she's kind of hot still. But she ends up having sex with her 18-year-old student.
Oh, wait, that's a new show, right?
Newish, yeah. It was a couple years ago. But she has sex with her 18-year-old student, but because it's a position of trust and he's one of her students, she ends up getting arrested or whatever for it. But at the same time, you're like, well, good for this guy.
Oh, yeah,
right?
2020. Oh.
Yeah, good. It's like good for this guy because she's got a good body. She's got, she's got a somewhat attractive face, and the kid, who knows, he's just doing his thing, and then he's going to go on to college or whatever and do his own whatever. And he's not really like, let's be real, if you're 18 years old or even 17, maybe even 16, and you have sex with your teacher, your hot teacher, are you really going to be that messed up? You know what I mean?
Here's the thing, Tom. I have
no more than if you fuck somebody when you're 19 or 20, and because you're still just as underdeveloped. But go ahead.
I really need to address this. I think the real thing that we have to talk about is if the kid has sex with his teacher, right? Does he still fail the class because he's retarded? That's you know what I mean?
Can you imagine,
imagine
the balls on a teacher?
The shame. Yeah, she just gives him an F or a D-. See me after class. You know what I mean?
But can you imagine the balls on that teacher to fuck your student,
no,
minor
this, right?
student, and then fail him, knowing the leverage that he has on her?
Dude, imagine this. Well, yeah, but imagine she picked the one that's really that stupid. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But then she's responsible for like stupid people.
That's true.
That's how Baltimore ends up having so many people graduate high school, even though they can't read.
Yes. So what was it? 75% can't read or do basic math. I think that's what it was.
It was something. They all have No, I think the newest one was like the 90% had a GPA of 1.0 or lower.
Oh well, that's a lot better than I expected.
Well,
So
it's not
but
like they would know. It was them that did the numbers, so it's probably
oh, it's
you know
it's actually a 10. They had no idea.
it's probably way off.
So you're also describing, by the way, the South Park episode that dealt with this.
Oh,
that
nice. That
Oh
one.
yeah, nice. Yeah, and it's of course very exaggerated, where it's this hot blonde teacher is a kindergarten teacher, and so it's Kyle's younger brother Ike
Yeah.
who ends up being with her, and the best part, I thought, the most poignant, I guess, because they always have those points in it, was that she claims that she was drunk, and then she goes to rehab. She walks in the door
And then right back out.
and walks right back out and says, "Oh, I learned my lesson. I was such a, the alcohol is behind me, and I'm not going to do it again, or whatever." And then all the male reporters are just like, "Nice."
Nice.
Because that's what it is. We just,
we let it go because it's a weird kind of one-sided sword, really. And I mean,
dude,
and we're all guilty of it.
A one-sided sword deep inside of a rapist teacher.
Well, unless she's hot. Like, so, Jerry, be honest.
I'm sorry. Right.
Be honest with me for a moment.
Sexually active teacher. I'm sorry.
If it's an ugly female teacher, and you found out that she raped a student,
right,
would you be more mad or more willing to throw the book at her and more disgusted by the situation than if it was like a hot teacher?
I would be probably more willing to throw a book at her, but the problem is she's so fugly the whole library already fell on her. You know what I mean? That's the problem. No,
she
dude,
fell off the bookshelf and hit every ugly book on the way down.
That's right. Yeah, man. Dude, I'd have a problem with her, yes, but then I'd be like, I hope you're not the acting coach. No, wait.
You can do it.
I hope you are the acting coach, because this dude just had to pretend to be attracted to you for the last semester, and I can't believe that shit was real. You know what I mean?
There you go.
There it is. See?
Oh man. All right, enough talking about ugly teachers or hot teachers.
Yeah, let's go back to more things to make people leave.
Let's talk. What else can we say?
I don't know.
I don't believe in Sandy Hook. I don't think Sandy Hook actually happened. But I've made that
That's
position
true, you
clear,
have
right?
You did. That's true.
I don't have any money, so if they come and try to sue me or whatever, I'll be like, you can have whatever I've got. I don't have much.
I have this sandwich.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's already half eaten or whatever.
And
it's like, and the peanut butter on it is actually expired. I was just hoping that I wouldn't be able to taste it. I use seasoning.
Dude,
right?
Nut allergy issues already. I don't even. Come on.
Yeah, that's when I hope that the people, the fake Sandy Hook crisis actors, have a nut allergy. Then they're like, well, I don't really want it that bad. I'll take your shoes, and I'll be like, they're not even mine. They're on they're on loan from the Smithsonian. These are Pharaoh Ramesses shoes. I don't know why I would have Pharaoh Ramesses shoes. All right, since we have a topic tonight, I guess we have to do the shot. What are we cheersing to, Jerry? I had like a bunch of stuff I wanted to talk about. I had some quality material.
No.
Let me see if I can sneak one in before we
Sure.
move on. I do have one. Maybe we'll just do a whole episode on that because it's been sitting here forever. I did a. Here's my recommendations for predator catchers because I've been watching new ones since we lost our guy. Creep
Contempt
catcher
for
or
Creeps.
whatever. Contempt for Creeps. You know.
He was the best.
He was number 1.
Or is. Hopefully he's still doing it.
Wherever he's at. He may have been murdered by that kid's brother. Or that man's
brother.
Dude,
that guy
trying
was
to fuck
mad.
a kid. So there's another one I found. It's called Expose Your Local Pedophile, EYLP. He's pretty good. He makes people... I think he's the one that made people eat hot peppers. I told you about him.
Dude, yeah.
Did you watch that one? Where he's like...
I started
I'll just say him
and then
this week. So
I was telling my wife about it because she tried to get my attention. She goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Tom sent me this thing where a predator catcher makes people eat ghost peppers or whatever while he's berating them." And she goes, "That's fake news. That's not true." And I go, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "What person in their right mind would sit there and eat that pepper and get berated in public just to not go to jail or whatever? And there's no guarantee they're not going to jail."
Right.
And I was like,
and here's the thing
that's a
about
good
this
point.
dude.
I don't know.
No. Here's the thing about that dude is these people, if I've found, right, and there's actually studies to back this up, if you hand something to somebody, they will instinctively take it from you. Just anyways, in any situation. Just,
yeah, that's true.
I challenge you to do this. Just have something in your hand.
I've done that, handing out flyers. People
and
take
hand it to somebody, and they'll take it. Now, if you're under extreme stress, you're more, your brain is operating on like all the other stuff that it has to deal with. The little stuff that's going on, it's just on autopilot. So if somebody says, "Here, take this and eat it," you will, right? Because you're just like you're focused so much on this other stuff that you really have to focus on that you'll do it. It's like when you chew bubble gum. If you chew bubble gum and you talk to somebody, like if you're nervous about talking to somebody, chew bubble gum and you will forget that you're nervous and you'll be able to say whatever you want. That's science, right? That's real science, not this Fauci science, the new science or whatever. But this dude, he like gives them the pepper and he says, "Here, eat this." He just like pulls it out of a bag and he like gives it to them when they're already like strung out because they know they've been caught. And he's like, "Eat this pepper," and it's a Carolina Reaper, right? And he only started doing it in like the more recent episodes. He started doing it called like his new game show called Predator Eats a Pepper or something like that. And
that's incredible.
The funniest one that he did was there was this guy who was just like he was talking a mile a minute, like this dude was just with all these excuses and shit, and he was so into like trying to explain himself, and it was all lies, very obviously lies. But
amazing lies, I hope.
No, they
really
were
good.
terrible lies. They were terrible lies. But he was just trying to say stuff to hopefully get out of the situation. You know how they do that? And this dude gives him the pepper. He eats the pepper and like isn't even thinking about it, and he's still going. And you could tell like the dude's all fucked up from it. Like his eyes are watering, his face is red and stuff. But he's like going and going and going and talking. And then finally the he's still berating this guy, and then at a certain point, I think the catcher forgets that he gave him the pepper, and so he has to address it. He's like, "How's that pepper, man?" And the dude's like, "Well, I was here. It's pretty fucking hot, man." He's like sweating his face. But he's like so stressed out about the situation now with this pepper, and like it's so funny when he does it. But the dude's like actually a pretty cool guy. He's a pretty good catcher. So I will recommend. That'll be my weekly recommendation. It's called Expose Your Local Pedophile.
Wow.
EYLP. And it's got like this really cool design of like a whale being harpooned. I don't know. It's weird. I just stumbled upon them because I found a couple of them. One of them was this Courtney chick with an X in her name, which makes me wonder if she's like binary or whatever. But no, she's like, she's up in Wisconsin and she does a lot of shit up there. But she's worked with PCI and PCM before. So she's worked as like a decoy because she looks really young. She's her own decoy when she goes out and does these things. Like these dudes will come up to her and be like, "Oh, you're the 13-year-old I was supposed to meet, right?"
Courtney Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's the one. Yep. But those are the ones that I push. The other ones that I've been, everybody knows Skeeter Hansen, and PP Mass was another one that I've been watching. That PP Mass guy, he has got like this really obnoxious voice, but he's pretty funny too. And then of course PvP. All right, who are we cheersing to? The new Predator catcher of choice that I encourage you all to watch. You can power through his whole library pretty quick. He's got a sort of a small. He doesn't have that many catches, so you can actually get.
Which is, by the way, for 22,000. You know what I mean? That's pretty. That's pretty good.
How many people he has?
Yeah, I just looked it up and it said he had 22,000. It said Courtney Elizabeth had 41. And I was like, I wonder why there's such a difference. But then it actually turned out, she's a lot more content.
Girl, right?
And she's a little girl, yeah.
So you've got all the guys who are like the predators who tune in. They're like, "Oh, that's the one who got me." Well,
dude,
that's
they're like,
fucker, right? The
sickos. Oh, I hope this is the one that catches me, not those fat chicks.
I hope it's not the guy who makes me eat a pepper.
Right? Yeah.
I hope I don't have to eat a pepper when I go to fuck a kid. All right, yeah. So to our new
Carolina
expose your local pedophile guy.
Exactly.
I wonder if Bodai is still here. If you're still in the chat, Bodai, go ahead and give us a thumbs up or whatever.
Go ahead and check out their videos.
Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment below.
By the way, we are gaining, but I'm watching. How's your chat on the video? Because I just checked in and mine has not updated.
No, it's Megabit. It's Megabit was the last one,
right? White Boy Summer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm watching the number of people grow. I just thought, with all the shit that we just said about topics most people have an interest in, I just assumed that we'd been kicked off or something was frozen.
No, yeah, it might have been. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let me say this real quick. We got in the chat 2 weeks in a row. Amanda, and then Mike, who's recovering from his third jab, and now he's able to get back in.
No, third was last week. It would be on 5 now.
Oh, goodness. Well, he's down again. He's down to 4. Or he's recovering. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. He's recovering from his 5th because now he's back, and he's number 2 this week. So it's Mike.
That's correct.
And then Monster Radio, of course. Go check out Monster Radio. And Efren Flor, because he's funny. He comes here and he saves me from myself when I'm talking about Adolf Hitler. He's like, no, Palpatine. Which, thank you, Monster Radio. Efren Flores. There's so few villains that you can put up on a pedestal, like Abraham Lincoln's top hat filled with brains. Efren Flores, Megabit, Bodai. If you're still out there, welcome to the chat, Bodai, and Steph.
Could you imagine if he subscribed? That'd be incredible.
Bodai, he must have.
He's
because
Could you imagine? He's no. Like after he got mad.
Well, maybe he's he needs to open.
Are you fucking kidding me? I can't believe this. I mean, I'm gonna subscribe, but I'm gonna be really.
I'm not gonna be happy about it.
Right? Yeah, I'm gonna be watchful over the proceedings, because I'm very selective about my subscriptions.
Mike says he's up to 75 jabs due to the metric system.
Wow.
Which is in real measurements, it's
like a couple feet.
It's only like a couple. But yeah, also whoever's out there listening, the FBI, CIA, NSA, ATF, DEA guys in the chat. Oh, IRS guy in the chat, and Superfan and the guy, the Tyler who Ben brought to the chat. Ben, if you're listening, I know he doesn't listen anymore because he doesn't ever talk about the show. But anybody else who's listening who cannot talk for one reason or another because they want to keep their job and they don't want to be associated with people who, celebrate the works of Mein Führer. All right. What are we talking about today, Jerry? Do you want to lead us in? I know you know all about it, so go ahead and take it away.
Yes. Yeah, I'm actually really excited. You hit me up before the show, and you're like, "Hey, man, we're going to talk about," and I don't want to say the name. I want to let you say it. I have a lot of trouble with pronunciation sometimes. But essentially, this guy has been, he's been a druggie. He's been almost a supernatural figure. He's lived on an island. He'll thrill you. He'll make you laugh. He'll take you on a ride on his motorcycle with his buddies across countries, make you really relate to him. And I for one am excited to be talking about Ewan McGregor. He's
a good guy. There's a mountain named after him, as a matter of fact.
Yes, that's it.
Did you know that Ewan McGregor's brother is in the British Royal Air Force, and his call sign is OB2?
Oh, that's funny. Well,
because
that's nice.
I think that's a pretty cool little factoid. But then also there's mountains, I think, in Scotland are actually called they're called something related to Obi-Wan's character. I don't remember what it is, but it's like a mountain is called, I don't know, maybe an Obi or something. I don't remember what it is, but so the joke is that technically Obi-Wan is the high ground in Scotland. So we are talking about egregores, right? A different type of.
Nice.
I'm not talking about Train Spotting Ewan McGregor, who put on a fantastic performance in that film, and I still haven't watched the second Train Spotting. I love the first one.
No, I think
it's one of the greatest movies, but I never watched the second one. I have it, I just haven't watched it. That was around the time I stopped watching movies because I was studying and shit. And also shit posting on Twitter. So like a lot of my time was taken up by that.
Very busy.
But no, egregores, and this is something that you should know, Jerry. That you should know now because you brought it up last week. You brought up the Watchers, which is part of the Book of Enoch. Now, I said no, none of that's real, based on Scripture, because it's not part of the
You guys should know
Noah
what tongue lashing I received after the show for embarrassing Tom.
Yeah, I said, how dare you, sir? Like, I brought you on. And Stephicus says, I loved him in Big Fish. Everybody in the chat, just go ahead and list your favorite Ewan McGregor movie, because mine, of course, is...
Can I just say...
any of the prequel Star Wars films, as is Jerry's, I'm sure.
No, well, actually, I do have a minor complaint about him. As you may or may not know, ladies and gentlemen, Ewan McGregor is one of the few actors, at least American, excuse me.
Sort of American.
Sort of American. That have worked with Roman Polanski, if I remember correctly.
What was he
in
with Roman Polanski?
Yeah, I want to make sure I have this right. I want to say it's called The Ghost Rider with Pierce Brosnan, I think. Let's see.
Anybody just name 3 films that Ewan McGregor was in, other than the prequels.
Ghost Rider, and in fact, in 2010, he of course he went out and praised him. He's a legendary filmmaker. He's one of the best there is, etc., etc. And then, that's McGregor on Good Morning America, and then it goes immediately to Polanski is charged with sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl in Hollywood in 1977.
But that wasn't rape, right? Well, that's what Whoopi said, right? Remember Whoopi said that, and she's still...
Oh, that's right, yeah. But Tom, are we playing by the... Wait, we have rules here on this show, and we have to abide by them.
Was Roman Polanski hot?
Was Roman Polanski a hot teacher, or no? Because if he wasn't, look, as often as we here at the show defer to Whoopi Goldberg for our morality, I think we still have to divert back to the rules. If you're not, a hot teacher, it probably was rape.
Yeah, it was definitely rape, because Roman Polanski, by definition, was not a hot teacher. He was neither hot nor was he a teacher. We have some people in the chat. We've, of course, got Stephicus saying Big Fish. And then we've got Efren Flores pointing out that he was the guy who fell out of the helicopter on Black Hawk Down, if I remember correctly. And then he was on The Men Who Stare at Goats, which was literally a program. Coincidentally, it was a program created by the Army to create real-life Jedis. And he was one of the Jedi soldiers.
For real.
So, yeah, so it's like, it kind of reminds me of how Elvis was always like, when he was an actor, they were like, oh, you're going to play a prisoner who plays guitar. Oh, you're going to play a teacher who plays guitar. Oh, you're going to play a roofer who plays guitar, right? It's like, oh, you're going to play a soldier who's a Jedi, right? It's kind of the same thing with, oh, you're going to play a heroin addict who's a Jedi,
also a Jedi.
Right? Yeah, that's the spin-off of Trainspotting that we never got. I would say he was also...
Well, you don't know. You haven't seen the second one.
No, he might have done some Jedi mind trick shit.
I am not wasted.
I am not addicted to heroin anymore, right? And then he immediately goes into the bathroom and he's tapping on his... But he was also in Dr. Sleep. I really I thought he was pretty good in that movie. He was the redeeming quality of that movie. Plus the chick on that movie, the bad lady, she was all right looking. Sure. But the book was actually
painfully long and kind of boring.
The thing about that movie and versus the book, I read the book. As you know, I hate read Stephen King books just so that I can talk shit about them. And that book starts with a gay sex scene with a child, a black man and a child. Who's the kid? The kid was... No, I guess they were both black, so it's black on black rape. It doesn't count. It was... Remember the guy who teaches the kid how to do The Shining or about The Shining?
Oh, yeah.
Black guy who ends up going to work at a resort in Florida or whatever during the winter. He, when he was a kid, he was raped by his grandpa. And so one of the opening scenes of the book is him being raped by his grandfather when he was a kid.
Wow. Well, did you know? I don't know if you know this, Tom. You know, because how Hollywood is, they do sometimes change titles, they change themes, that kind of thing.
Maybe it was
the original title for Dr. Sleep was not actually. They weren't going to keep Dr. Sleep. When they had the movie in mind, they actually were going to call it Men Who Stare at Gaping Buttholes. But then, you know, when Ewan McGregor came along, they were like, well, now people would think it's
right?
Now people would think it's a sequel, right? So then they had to go, well, I don't know, come up with a name, Dr. Sleep. I don't know.
Stupid.
Yeah.
That's a stupid name. Let's go back to...
Yeah, so dumb.
Let's go back to
Men Who Stare at Gaping Assholes.
I hate this one. So anyways, Ewan McGregor's... That's not what we're talking about. But that will be the title of the episode. You had me at Ewan McGregor. Or no, he'll be a picture on the thumbnail, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about egregores because you mentioned it last week. It just was like a happy coincidence that this happened. You had mentioned the Watchers, and the Watchers made of stone. And I had remembered reading about this. I just didn't make the connection between the egregores, the rock monsters, and the Watchers. Like I had not made that connection. I knew of like two of them, and then I forgot about one of them, and I knew about two of them because you had mentioned one, and I knew about. So it was like a weird thing where all of a sudden, like it came to me this week. I'm like, oh, duh. I have heard about this before, but it's from the Book of Enoch, right? Which is not canonical. It was removed from the canonical scripture. And Enoch was one of like two people who never died. He was just brought to heaven because God loved him so much that he was just like, no, let's take this guy. And you don't have to go through the whole harrowing experience of dying or whatever. So Enoch was one of them. And so then there's this Book of Enoch, which talks a lot about the Nephilim. It talks a little bit about the Watchers. It talks about egregores and all that shit. And but it's not, like I said, it's not canonical scripture, so we don't hear about it a whole lot. You certainly don't hear about it as much as you hear about, I don't know, the story of David and Goliath or whatever. It's not. These are kind of like, and I think probably what it is because it's a little bit more fantastical, right? There's a lot more like you have to suspend disbelief a little bit more when you read, and that's probably why some of the books of the Bible were removed, was because it becomes a little bit more difficult to be like, oh, that happened, right? But in reality, like all the stuff that happened. How do you
feel about that?
How do I feel about it?
Well, yeah, because
Ask
okay,
your question, Jerry.
Here's okay. When I talk about faith with people, and my own answers over the years often were something like this: how am I supposed to believe what the book says, for example, if the book has been edited and altered by kings? It's been
not kings, by popes.
Well, King James, literally. I mean,
whatever. Well, he just kind of worked with what was already decided at the
but you understand what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
It's been altered by man. It was written posthumously, entirely, admittedly, 100% posthumous, and all these other things have been. And first of all, and not that everybody's Catholic or whatever, but you and I were kind of talking about the Pope off air, and the sort of top down from that. So you go, okay, wait a minute. So the representative of God on earth is that fucking guy. This book is an amalgamation of what they decided to leave over to give us a script that we're supposed to believe, while there's all this other kind of stuff out there that we may not even know about, and the things that we do know about, they don't believe we would still believe if it was, sort of like you said, canonical and in the book, all this sort of stuff. And you just sit there and go, and then with the topic we're about to talk about today, if you want to explain the egregores and what they are, we just said before we got on the air, this is where it makes you potentially question things. So how do you feel about that? It's like, well, wait a minute. Either I'm supposed to have faith in this or not. Either this is all true and this is what I mean, listen, you have like Mormons out there who wear like fancy underwear, whatever it is, and
well, yeah, to go to temple.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the whole the Smith thing, where he's like, yeah, every time I got into trouble, I just kept finding really cool shit, you know. And a Native American came to me and told me that Jesus was here for me and all this kind of other stuff. And they believe it. Yeah. Why can't I believe that there was maybe a fantastical monster or I don't know, white angel watcher, whatever it is? Why is that so fantastic?
Well, you already know that I believe in all that fantastical stuff. So, like, whenever I read stuff that's fantastical, that's been removed from the Bible, I'm instinctively like, well, that's probably true, right?
Right.
So here's my opinion on the matter. The Bible that we have is the bare minimum of stuff.
Bare necessities?
Right? Yeah. It's like, so my opinion on the matter is that God would not allow something that was critical for our own salvation, for our own spiritual development. He would not allow something like that to be removed from the Bible, but he would allow, or added, he wouldn't allow something that would detract us be added to the Bible. What we have in hand is what we need for salvation. That's my bare, but like I said, that's the bare minimum. Now, the stuff that was taken out, that was admittedly taken out, I would say look at that, because there's probably some truth. In fact, I would guarantee that there's some truth. I would in fact say that there is definitely some truth to it, because the fact that they removed it was that it was threatening to them or something. And so they probably removed some stuff that would either take people away from the church or cause people to be a little bit more hesitant about it. Like if you look at the Apocalypse of Peter, which is Peter's retelling of like when he went and God or Jesus took him on a tour of heaven and hell and kind of explained like, hey, this is what it's like, right? And here's what hell looks like. And that's where Thomas Aquinas came up with his idea for the circles of hell, and where Dante Alighieri came up with, who got a lot of his stuff from Thomas Aquinas, but also got his from the Apocalypse of Peter, for the Divine Comedy and Dante's Inferno and that sort of stuff. A lot of that stuff comes from there, from that book that was removed. But the reason it was removed because it explicitly says abortion is a sin that will send you to hell, and you will be forced to wallow in the entrails of aborted babies, right? Fetuses and embryos, and they'll also be like heckling you for all of eternity and shit. It's like a very like dark stuff. And so, yeah, of course they would remove that, because then all of a sudden the Catholic Church wouldn't be able to say, well, we're, okay with abortion. So I would say anything that was removed from the Bible specifically, especially by the Catholic Church, I would say give it a shot, because there's some truth to it. You just got to figure out why they hid it from you. But some of it is like, I've not ever I've read some of the stuff, the lost scriptures or whatever. I've read some of it. As much of it as I can get my hands on, but I'm not fully versed in all of the stuff that was taken out, so I can't speak definitively on what is what. But I will say some of the stuff is very fantastical, and it would cause you to be like, well, giants, flat Earth, the Watchers, right? Like this sort of stuff, dinosaurs, this sort of stuff. Hell being a place where you have punishments that are fitting to your sin or whatever. I don't know. Or like imagery of what it looks like when you're looking out over this ravine between heaven and hell, where you can see from heaven, you can see into hell, which is actually scriptural, because the story of the poor man and Lazarus, the rich man and Lazarus, where he sees his family member in hell, and he's able to interact in that regard. So there's some stuff in there that, like, if something is removed from the Bible, I would say give it a shot. If it challenges your faith, I would say, I don't know. That's probably the reason why it was removed. But if it might strengthen your faith, it might make you go, okay, I always knew that giants were real, and now I have a more accurate picture of what giants.
You have one on your show. I mean,
well, you're 6'4" or something.
6'5", yeah.
6'5", I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take an inch from you. But
yeah, please don't.
Anyways,
I'm gaining inches in the wrong areas, losing inches in the others. I need to keep those.
You're losing inches of hair.
Yes. That's
So
right.
these watchers, they're actually spoken about in the Book of Enoch, and I tried to breeze through it real quick today, but I finally got a copy of the Book of Enoch, and there was no way I was going to be able to read through it in time. Certainly not to be able to appreciate what was in it. So, anyways, but that's where the Egregore concept comes up in the Book of Enoch. So if you're curious if it's scriptural or not, the answer is yes or no, yes and no. Maybe, I don't know. It's kind of like the Schrodinger's cat of scripture, because it either it exists but also it doesn't, because Enoch was one of God's homies, so much so that God brought him to heaven with him rather than having him die. And there was a book of Enoch, which was probably written based on Enoch's notes or Enoch's writing. And supposedly Enoch was the first person to ever write a letter. He was like the first person to write stuff. So
Really?
like, I always laugh at the idea of Enoch saying, "Hey, I wrote you a letter," and they'll be like, "You did what?" He's like, "I wrote you a letter," and they're like, "You did what? A letter?" And he's like, "I wrote you a letter." "You wrote me a what?" You know, like all of it was so foreign to whoever he wrote it to. And then even the people who read his work later were like, "What the fuck is this?" Like he was just drawing scribbles or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, I assume that
They're
this
like,
wasn't
what is a
letter
dice
that-
game?
it's a very long book. So I mean, I assume it was written by one of his disciples or something who later came along and was like, "Oh, here's all the shit that Enoch told us that we needed to be concerned about." So that would be where the Watchers comes from, and I'm sure that's probably where the director took his artistic liberties, and that was around the same time, or the Watchers would have existed around the time of Noah, since that was comparable to the time that Enoch walked on the earth. But what I want to talk about is specifically, or more generally, I suppose, egregores, because egregore is something that it's one of those things that's very ambiguous. Like Dave Outlandish would come on and be like, "Well, it could be invisible flying monsters, or it could be this just collective hive mind thought that gave power to a personality of this hive mind, and then that hive mind personality was distributed amongst the group." And so you can be like, "Oh, this is an exciting thing that just happened," or "This is an incredibly boring human psychosis," right? That just happens in mass hysteria. And the way I understand it, and I could be wrong, I could be totally wrong, as with any episode, I could be totally wrong.
Never heard.
I appreciate that, Jerry. What I mean by a group hysteria or some kind of hive mind thing is egregore technically could be Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or I don't know, a holiday, the 4th of July, right? The things that we have that people just all acknowledge. COVID-19, right, is an egregore because it's something that enough people...
Dude, I understand that.
Enough people gave it power that it spread out, and the people were able to take that power and look at us and say, "Why aren't you wearing a mask? Don't you know that there's a pandemic going on?" Right? It gave them power based on the power that they gave this entity. Now, this entity was just a thought, right? It was just this big hovering dark cloud called COVID-19. And that in itself was an egregore, just like I said, Santa Claus, right? Enough kids believe in Santa Claus that Santa Claus becomes this thing. And is Santa Claus real or not? You know, like I've said on the show before, we here at You Had Me at Bigfoot believe in Santa Claus, but there are people who will dismiss Santa Claus and say Santa Claus isn't real, and those people are liars and cowards, and they should be dispatched accordingly. But so Santa Claus, right, there's people who don't believe in Santa Claus, but there are enough people who believe in Santa Claus that Santa Claus continues to be a thing year after year. People dress up as Santa Claus. Mickey Mouse is an egregore, right? You know, there's like people they dress up as him at Disney World, and they give power to these things, and those things go on and continue to have some kind of influence over the world, and whether it's pop culture or whether it's tradition or the zeitgeist, right? Whatever it is, you know, they're given power. And so where the alternative is, we all collectively, we come together, and this is where you see like summoning circles where people get together and they summon a demon, right? And this group believes so deeply that there is this demon that they're summoning, that it ends up creating sort of a group hysteria, hive mind creation of a demon where they all see it and they all experience it, but in reality it's not there, right? Or is it? Did they actually summon something with the energy that they gave it? They were actually able to create this thing out of nothing. And that's where kind of this idea of, Mike says, kind of like Foo Fighters, the band. And I don't know enough Monster Radio. Please help me what the tulpa is. I'm not well enough versed on the topic to know what a tulpa is. But
I know exactly what it is. Tulpa is the gas-powered sister to the Tesla. It's actually heterosexual.
So it's the one that the tough guys drive. They show up
Yeah,
and they're
it's the
like,
tough guy. Yeah,
their little like coupe or whatever, and they pull
It's the
up. But
pickup
it's like,
truck.
but it's like
You know what I
cranking
mean?
out like black coal or whatever out the back. So I was gonna say it's
here, I'll
probably
tell
a
you right
city
now.
in Oklahoma City.
Tulpa-
Go ahead, Jerry.
Tulpa is a concept in theosophy, mysticism, and the paranormal of an object or being that is created through spiritual or mental powers. Modern practitioners who call themselves tulpamancers use the term to refer to a type of willed imaginary friend, which practitioners consider to be sentient and relatively independent.
So there you go. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's the interesting version, right? Like I said, there's the uninteresting version where, like I said, this is kind of a Dave Outlandish situation where like you have both. It could be the incredibly boring version where it's just like, yeah, well, we understand Google to be this egregore or whatever, because we acknowledge it, we give it power, and though it is some kind of physical manifestation, it is largely, or the government even, we consider the government would be one because we give it power, and that sort of shit. I like how Megabit thought the same thing. When you said imaginary friend, I thought the same thing. I was like, yeah, all right, well, that really is what it ends up being, though, but from like a group perspective, because it's one thing to be like a little crazy and like think you're hearing things, but like when everybody hears it, it's group hysteria or mass psychosis. And so there's some weird psychiatric thing or psychological thing that goes on when it's a group. But what ends up happening is whether it's so these people they come together and they can create this entity or like a tulpa. The tulpa is the version that is the more interesting version. They can come together and create this thing, and sort of like the mid ground between the two would be Slender Man, right? Because Slender Man was a concept that was dreamed up by a creepypasta writer, right? Now they wrote it up. It's a totally fictional thing. This being with like all these tentacles and shit, and kidnaps children out in the woods. But then it became a real thing when those girls went out and stabbed the shit out of like one of their friends, right? It became because they were doing it to appease this invisible monster, right? This Slender Man that they believed to exist. So it ended up becoming a real thing. But in that way, it's sort of a real thing, but sort of not. So it ends up becoming an invisible monster, but also just a group hysteria thing that people kind of acknowledge. Now, did they create this thing so much so that group psychosis pushed back on these girls and said, hey, you need to kill for the Slender Man? That's kind of what it sounds like. Is there a real physical manifestation of the Slender Man? I don't know. But here's the thing about the egregore is you can create a physical manifestation of these things with enough energy, enough power, enough faith, right? We talk, and I know you're itching to talk about this, Jerry, about the whole faith thing and how this can kind of like blow up in our face and how we're shaking everybody. But with enough faith, you can create an egregore, a physical manifestation of whatever this group psychosis thing, which and this kind of goes back to my old argument about how I thought that the gods of Olympus and the ancient gods and them, they were real physical entities that people interacted with because I thought they were demons, which I mean egregores, I think demons latch onto that and that's how they become a physical manifestation, or that's how they take on their appearances, is through egregory, or I don't know if that's a word, egregory. But they go and they assume this persona. And like I said, I thought Zeus and Apollo and Ares and all these characters that people had very real experiences with, that they were demons presenting themselves as, hey, I'm Ares, god of such and such or whatever. But in reality, it might have been just an egregore, right? These people gave enough energy, enough faith. They were giving sacrifices to these gods. It was so much that they were able to build up this energy to physically manifest as, hi, I'm Zeus, god of gods, and I'm here to fuck your wife, right? And have a demigod child, right? Which would have ended up becoming what we understand to be a Nephilim. Which then again, that would make Zeus an egregore with a demon wearing an egregore suit, right? And fucking the Greeks' women, right? And so, I don't know, like it became such a fascinating thing to me in that regard. Now, Jerry, I know you want to. Monster Radio says, so technically, could Dogman fall into this category? And I think that's where a lot of our cryptid stuff comes from, because think of it this way. If there was no such thing as Bigfoot ever, imagine there was no such thing as Bigfoot. It was never part of the divine creation. It was never, or if you're a believer of like evolution exclusively, if there was no such thing as a Bigfoot ever, and Bigfoot wasn't, I don't know, an alien or whatever the fuck. But if Bigfoot was just never meant to exist, but enough people came together and they said, I saw something really scary out in the woods, and it really, like, just in their mind's eye, they saw an ape man, like a super tall ape man, very burly or whatever. And they described it as such. And then other people were like, well, you know what? Now that I'm thinking back, and they're remembering a memory which automatically degrades it, they automatically assume that this Bigfoot, whatever it is, they think that they saw it too. So everybody starts feeding into this energy of like, okay, there's this Bigfoot out there. It's like an ape man. It's like 8 foot tall, 7 foot tall, whatever. And it's out there in the woods, in all these places that we see it. It's everywhere. It could be anywhere, and it's leaving these big giant footprints, and people start seeing shit. And so, like, all of a sudden it spreads like wildfire, right? Now everybody is believing in this entity that is Bigfoot, and now Bigfoot becomes a real thing. And that's why the Bigfoot sightings are so limited, and any kind of good imagery is so limited, because what we have is this demonic entity fed into an egregore suit out in the woods that looks like a monkey man, right? That super tall monkey man. Same thing with Dog Man. So all of a sudden people are just like, well, no, this wasn't a Bigfoot. It looked a lot more like a werewolf. Now werewolves themselves are kind of like an egregore, or vampires, right? All these legends that we have, we've put so much energy into it. What's stopping there from being an actual physical entity that represents all these things that we've fed all this energy into? Just like ghosts, right? We hear about ghosts on these, the ghost shows. They're like, anytime you give enough energy, they draw energy from you, right? That's why they draw energy from your batteries. They make your hair stand up. They make it cold. They make all this shit happen. And it creates this physical manifestation of a ghost. Now the same is likely true of like some kind of mental or telekinetic energy feeding into these egregores. And then of course demons are like, well, people believe in this Bigfoot or this Dog Man or this Slender Man or Zeus, god of Olympus, right? They believe in this thing, and they're worshiping it, and they're like focusing so much attention on it. I'm getting the attention that I want. I'll go do that. I'll go be the Bigfoot. I'll go be the Dog Man. I don't give a shit. And they go and do that. Or same thing with aliens. Aliens could be the same thing. Aliens could just be an egregore. We could have created aliens based off of a misunderstanding of something that we saw. Swamp gases, right? That might have been the original thing. But now we have these images of like every time you draw a picture of something, or you create a creepypasta, and people start believing it. They're like, huh, you know what? I've seen something that reminds me of something that I've seen before. You're feeding it energy, and all this energy that it gathers, it's developing a physical manifestation of that thing, which is why these things the sightings are so rare. They're so difficult to capture. There's so limited stories from credible sources, that sort of stuff.
What also, by the way, what always bothered me about the whole Bigfoot thing?
Yeah.
Is whenever anybody gets a casting, it's always 1 foot.
Yeah, you never see both feet.
There's no 2 feet together.
That's why they're called Bigfoot and not Big Feet.
No, but it always, I don't want to. Oh, like I always love when people get so excited. Oh, this is a really good one, real quality. Yeah, where's the other one?
Yeah, where's the other foot, man?
Where the
If you
fuck
want me to
is the
really
other foot?
believe that this is a Bigfoot, a
Yeah,
big feet, we see the
there's
Bigfoot. We never see the big
dude,
feet.
dude. There is
That's the
no
problem.
way. They'll say like, oh, here's a print. Okay, did you look like 2 feet ahead?
Yeah,
How about
where's the
two
other
feet
one?
behind? Where are the other ones?
Well,
If
what if
the
he was
weather,
walking side to side? That's where
yeah,
they get you. Maybe
yeah.
Bigfoot walks like a crab.
What if he turned around to take a dump next to the tree where that print is? And so you just got to look on the other side of the tree or whatever.
You know
what
why
I mean?
you only ever see one foot, Jerry? Is because
Why's
they
that?
actually swing from the trees and they only land on the ground momentarily because there wasn't enough vine to continue swinging, right?
I see. Yeah,
Just solve
just
that
like in that
mystery.
really famous video, the old one where they're where the Bigfoot is in the middle of a plane in the middle of a plain with no wood, no trees anywhere
Well, that's
near.
why. Yeah, that's why there were so many.
That's why they're like, oh,
stats.
that's a fake. It has to be because it's not flying off the trees.
I do want to say this real quick, Jerry, before you do your piece on shattering everybody's faith. Um,
Well, okay.
Welcome to the chat, mostly Wave and Critter. Welcome. Also, I don't think I said hi to
And Jake Koo.
Jake Hoob. Yeah, he came like right after we finished doing the welcome. So happy to have you guys here. Jerry, do you want to shake the faith of our viewers?
Well, sure, but I also want to address the fact that Mike, I think without irony or twist, said that we should do that with giant hairy beavers up here.
We should create our own egregore of giant hairy
I believe-
beavers.
Yes, I believe that's what he's saying, but I don't think he's thinking about the same giant hairy beavers that I just
Oh
thought
no,
of.
he is.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You got to
well,
remember, Mike in Manitoba is a horny Canadian.
They are Canadian, right? I forgot about that. They are Canadian. Okay.
He is
all right.
Canadian. He's not a
Right.
pronoun person.
No, I don't want to assume anything. He's had 6 or 7 shots. Tom, he may not
He might
even be human
converted.
now.
He
Yeah, we
might
don't
have
even know.
He might have a "I'm with her" sticker on his car, on his Tesla.
I am her
Not
on
his
his
Turga.
Tesla. We don't even
Or
know.
Tulpa.
I'm not just I am with. I am.
I am her. Him.
It's
her
man.
slash he.
Her slash he slash. Dude, I saw. Oh my gosh, I saw one where this. Well, it was a girl, but she was talking about how she's a frog, and I saw another TikTok where this girl was claiming that she was a bird, and so forth. And then of course they have all these cats now to the point where some schools supposedly, I don't know, hopefully it's, in a way I hope it's true just to show how much we need to take back,
How far we
I don't know,
strayed
life
from
or
the light
country
of
or
God.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, life or a country, I don't know, whatever you want to say. That some schools are putting in cat litter boxes in bathrooms. But so anyway, if
I would
that
kick
was
them
not,
over every time. Anytime I see something absurd like that, I'm going to make it my. I'm going to make it my personal mission to somehow vandalize it, right? Because I am not going to this whatever fucked up crazy, I don't know, Japanese vending machine world that they want us to go to, right?
right.
Jerry,
Yeah.
shake the faith of our viewers. Come on.
I want to actually. I'm glad you mentioned that, Tom, because I want to make sure that me mentioning that I saw actual human children saying that they were birds, frogs, and cats, who had secret cat languages. By the way, they had come up with "Hello, I like you. I don't like you. I'm mad at you," and then also I have to use the bathroom.
Did they come up with their pronouns in their applicable animal languages?
Oh
or
yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
hope
Of course, yeah. Obviously, Tom. Obviously.
Did they know how to cry in their animal languages? Because that's what's going to happen when I beat them mercilessly. I beat somebody else's kids.
Beat them with the shoe like the animals they are. So, okay, when Tom originally kind of, was mentioning this to me off air. Oh, so anyway, to clarify, the weakening of everybody's faith was not to mention that those people existed, but that wasn't it. It was something potentially worse.
Shake the faith of all those people. You don't even exist. You're just Mike is just an egregore of you had me at
Mike
Bigfoot.
is just an egregore of beavers. We don't know.
He didn't exist until we started talking about him on the show.
Yeah, Mike is literally just a beaver demon, and we've come up with him on our own. So, okay, with the concept being that, because, when Tom was discussing this with me off air, and then, of course, even briefly before, he used the example of the Greek gods and the possibility that it was sort of a hive mind sort of thing. Much in the way like other cultures, there were the sun gods, right? Or the god was the sun, that kind of thing. So if, with the sort of theory that, well, that's possible, that it was real to them or manifested, and then once the power of the Jesus story and Christianity started getting spread into those cultures, it started to wane because people began to believe this other thing. Is it then possible, if we are to say there's a possibility that the Greek gods were just a manifestation, they were something that maybe did take physical form, but only because of the energy generation and faith of the people who engaged with that, then is it then not also possible that Jesus and the Lord are then also
Egregores?
I mean, I'm not. Look, I mean, you can't. If we're playing fairsies, while it is not as popular as Jesus and God and everything, there was a time where if you talk shit about Zeus or whatever, you'd get your ass kicked. You'd be called a dumbass or whatever, and get into whole bunches of trouble. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, if there was such a staunch, extreme faith in those gods at that time, and it was taken that seriously, much in the way that we all do now here about Christ and God, then, I mean, if you talk to a Greek person about the same subject, like say all those years ago, and you said, all right, well, hey, listen.
He's not even real.
It's not even real. It's just something you think, or it's a bunch of energy you guys are. It's like a Tesla, or
yeah, that's why there's no egregores in California.
Taking electricity. It's just taking electricity out of the air. One of those. If you ever saw The Prestige, for anybody who saw.
Don't spoil The Prestige for anybody who hasn't seen the 2008 movie.
Nearly 20-year-old movie. Dude, it was so awful. By the way, just a short side note. I was dating a girl at that time, and I gave her the choice: do you want to go see The Prestige, or do you want to go, or do you want to go see Marie Antoinette? And she said, "Oh, Marie Antoinette. It's by that lady who made Lost in Translation."
Well, that's how I know that woman didn't go on to become your wife.
She is not my wife.
Yeah.
That's true.
I knew it, because your wife would have picked Prestige.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Hands down.
That's true.
Obviously. So Jerry, let me ask you this: do you think
think
that Yahweh and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit are egregores, Jerry? I'm putting you on the record right now.
Right. So, I guess I want to answer that question with a question, which is very frustrating.
You can't do that. But go ahead.
I can do whatever I want. I mean, you may take me off.
I forgot. You're 51% of the show.
I'm only based on height.
Damn my jeans.
That's it. Sorry, man.
We'll wear platforms next time.
So here's the thing. I guess my question would be, even if I did, does that at all take away from the power of what we believe them to be? I mean, I understand that the theology, the story behind it, of course, would be drastically altered or whatever. But in terms of what it means to people, in terms of the effect, like the energy, right? Like, it's I don't want to use such a small example to relate it, but I'm having trouble. My point is, so like if someone comes in a room, right, and they are miserable, it tends to bring the room down, right?
Yeah.
And in the reverse, if someone's happy, that kind of thing. So I guess what I'm saying is, even if it was a slightly altered version, of course, because the story would be a little bit different, does it change the power of God or of Jesus or of Yahweh to anybody or to the world at large, given the strength and power of the faith that created it in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't that make the story real? Doesn't that make God real?
But here's the thing, Jerry.
I don't want to say who cares, but
yeah, at this point, what difference does it make, Hillary? So my opinion on the matter. Now, my faith will not be shaken. This is how it is.
No,
but
Tom,
when I
yours
think
has been
about
stirred, you told me.
That's right. There's just, and Mike's here in the chat. He's providing like the strongest. Mike is the strongest Christian I know, and like I lean on him. And I wish to be one day as strong in my faith as Mike. But he's in the chat saying there's only one I am, right? Now, will I say? Now, to me, like I said, my faith will not be shaken. I believe truly that God, the God of the Israelites, in the origin, I am the Alpha and Omega, the Creator of the heavens and the earth. I do believe in Yahweh, right? I believe that He is the God, the Creator of the universe. Period. And everything else is just like an Aldi's brand imitation, a demon in an Egregore suit. That is my belief, and there is nothing that can shake that. And even when things do present themselves in an effort to shake that faith, I still see it as like, well, that's just like your opinion, right? You've not presented enough evidence to me to shake that faith. It's built on this strong cornerstone, right? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, if I were to objectively look at this situation, I would say Christianity is the largest religion, right? So when we look as Christians,
what, like in girth
and circumference. Now, Christianity is the largest. Good evening, Shogun XP. Welcome to the chat. Now, Christianity is the largest. So when you, a Christian, experience the blessings or the punishment of a divine being that is God, and you recognize it as such, and you see it, and you're like, wow, I have just experienced the divine blessings or punishments of my God. And it is like undeniable. These are the characteristics of the God of the Israelites, of the Old Testament, of the New Testament, of the God who sent his only begotten Son. This is that God. Like, there is no denying that. We understand that Christianity being the largest religion, we know that Christianity won, right? And the second largest is Islam, which believes sort of in the same God. They call him Allah, but they have the same origin story of this Allah as our Yahweh, right? And so we share that similarity. So even the people who are not necessarily on the same page as us are still in the same sort of book, and they're still feeding energy to this entity, right? So we still understand those characteristics, the characteristics that we ascribe to our God, Yahweh. And I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying if we were to view him as such an egregore, all this is feeding into that, creating this gigantic, massive God, right? Who has that power to deliver these blessings and these based on these characteristics that he has created, right? That's kind of where like I hit a snag in my argument. If I was to say, based on my faith, right, I say that God is the God. He is, I am, right? Like Mike said in the chat and reminded us, he's the Alpha Omega. He is the creator of the universe, right? That is my belief. But if you were to tell me that Yahweh is an egregore and I had to prove differently, I would instinctively think of what I just said, and I'd say, there's really nothing that I can tell you that he's not, right?
It's called faith for a reason, right?
That's what I'm saying. Based on the definition and the explanation of what an egregore is, not necessarily the hive mind version of it, and even the hive mind version of it, because if something good happens, I'm going to say, oh, this is a blessing, this is a divine blessing. But if something bad happens, I'm going to think, well, this is a divine punishment based on the characteristics that I have ascribed to this God, right? And so you're in a position where you're kind of like, well, yeah, I guess if my faith weren't as strong as it is, I would say, yes, my faith has been shaken, because you have just described to me what I understand an egregore to be, right? So it's kind of a weird situation in that way. So when you said that right before we jumped onto the show, I'm like, nope, I'm with you. I've already like in the hours leading up to this episode, I have had to think about this because I'm like, wow, there's really no way that I can, other than the fact that I think, based on the scriptures, God predates egregores. Right? Egregore is a concept that is later mentioned after the creation of the universe, which was performed by our God, the Yahweh, creator of the heaven and the earth, Alpha and Omega, the great I am, right? So if I were to say, that would be my argument. I'd be like, well, egregores were something written by man, right? Is written by a man who may have been a great man who God saw as like, hey, man, come on, join with me. You don't have to go through the rigors of death. Just come with me because you're awesome, right? And I like hanging out with you. You're a righteous man. It was written by that man or his disciples, perhaps, collecting his notes. But it still happens after, long after the creation of the universe, right? So my argument would be God, as we understand him to be, as we accept him, as we know him, as we believe in him, predates the concept of egregore. And that is why I would say that God himself is not an egregore, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Did I make my argument at least? Did I make the argument and the counter argument equally as well? Did I win debate?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. You're admitting that if you didn't have such a strong faith, that the definitions sort of weave in and out of each other, so it's hard to disprove. There's nothing that really could be said to be like, oh no, the savior and the God of this our largest belief system is totally not part of an energy that is created by the system of people itself. No. I mean, sure, we have billions of people who believe in this one, God, and then Jesus. So, nope. No, it's not all of our energy. By the way, yes, I understand that egregores are literally the manifestation of an energy built by a lot of people or whatever. So yeah, you're admitting, hey, look, if it wasn't for the faith thing, but although it does help that God, I am came first, right? Like, it's like, oh, right, after. Okay, so this is kind of mimicry or, some kind of thing. And by the way,
well, God would have created egregores, which God created a lot of really really weird things, right? Like he created some stuff that we just can't explain. So
you know what I'm saying? So yeah, no, and I think that's I think you did address both of them properly, and I it's kind of funny too, right? How do I put this? I don't know how to exactly say it, but like the concept of it kind of plays into us being children of a God, right? Because if what you're saying, if I'm to understand the definition properly, these things are a manifestation of an energy by a large group of people. In other words, people are putting a faith into it or a belief or an energy into this, and then it becomes a thing, right? Well, what other, like, if we are able to create, it is only because we come from a creator kind of thing?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, so to me, then it's beyond the fact that, God came first or whatever. Sure, all right, fine. But there's also this belief that, we have pretty extreme power that we don't get to tap into because we basically live on a hellscape, and we are being driven further and further from our true nature, our true spirituality, our true souls. So maybe the reason why these things occur, positively or negatively, is because a certain strength, a certain power that we as a species, as a humanity, as a children of God have, actually can do that. As it's something that we always could do. Maybe it's something we lost on a more powerful, like, individual level after Eden and everything, just all that kind of, maybe we were supposed to be a heck of a lot stronger, powerful.
Well, we
you know,
fucked it up
beings.
because we ate the apple.
That's right. You know,
The
yeah,
apricot or the fig, probably. It's
sure,
probably a fig,
exactly.
technically.
Yeah, but you know, so that's to me, it's like, oh well, maybe that's true too. Maybe that proves it in and of itself. How are we not potentially higher spiritual beings from a higher spiritual being if, like, we could do that? You know,
Pretty
I mean,
wild, Jerry.
that's something in and of itself. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you addressed it.
I
For
think
sure.
you get to a point where, like I said to my Sunday school class one time about aliens, and I was like, would that shake your faith if like aliens showed up and they told you like they were legitimately able to prove that they are aliens from another, I don't know, another planet outside of our galaxy?
They showed their
like,
GPS.
Yeah, well, I don't know how they would do it, but if they were able to definitively prove that they were from, I said, would that shake your faith? And some of the kids, they were like, well, yeah, I guess it would. And I said, well, why? And my argument was, I said, I think my faith would be strengthened because I would think about how, of all the planets in the universe, this forever expanding universe. It's not an infinite universe, but this constantly expanding universe, and there's constantly stuff still being created. Creation is still in the works. I'm like, still in this expanding universe, God saw fit to send His beloved Son to us, right, to die for our sins, right? I was like, that's pretty special to me. Like, if He didn't do that for these other, I'll be like, you guys got to hear this. Like, He did this thing for us. Like, you got to hear this. Let me talk about the Creator of the universe, right? And let me tell you the story about Jesus Christ, right? So, like, the same, I think the same is true here. Like, if that were what you said were true, I think that's pretty special, and I think that the ability to do that, it kind of like, I think it should strengthen your faith, right? Like, you have this ability to give your energy to this divine being who predates egregores, and who, because remember, we learned in the Book of Enoch, right? They talk about egregores. But then he also like acknowledges, no. There's God, right? There's Yahweh. There is the Creator of the universe, and then there's egregores, right? Like, he is distinctly differentiating the two. We don't see that in these other sort of cultures. So I don't know. I think like the fact that we have that power and we can give that energy to our God, our Yahweh, the Creator, the great I am. So the Alpha and Omega. We can give that to Him, or we can give it elsewhere, and we can create these kind of like fantastical creatures, right? These Lovecraftian monsters, if we wanted to, or these demons, or just whatever. We can do that, or we can devote that energy to God, and then, in response, receive that blessing. I think that's, I don't know, that strengthens my faith, certainly, and I would hope it would do the same for you. But I know we wanted to kind of talk about what brought this subject on, more or less. It wasn't Jerry's, the Watchers
thing.
or whatever. It wasn't that. It was
movie Noah.
This whole other issue that I've been looking at egregores for some time, but I was like, I don't know enough about it, and I kind of talked to Dave about it a little bit because he has mentioned it in the past. But he's also the guy who's like, I know Dave's true opinion on the matter, but he will not pick a side publicly. But when I showed him some stuff recently, today, I told him today about this thing that I saw. I was like, this is like, to me, it reminds me of something. Well, first of all, let me say this. Egregore, there was some time ago, remember that there was like that mushroom Wojak? Remember, it was like, the goofy looking guy, the Wojak guy who's like pointing back, and he and his friend are like going, and they're pointing at like a vegetarian or a vegan buffet or some shit. And it's like, it's making fun of liberals, and they call it the Wojak, and it's like the guy who's crying, the NPC that's crying or whatever. That meme.
Oh, okay.
So they call that a Wojak. Somebody made a mushroom Wojak, and they called it a Shroom Jack. And this Shroom Jack, it was funny and it was goofy, but like if you really looked at it, and I wish I would have grabbed a picture before we started because I was too busy grabbing pictures of this other thing that we need to talk about. But there's this mushroom, and you look at it and you're like, there's something about this, as funny as it is and as silly and goofy as it is, there's something that makes me feel uncomfortable about it. And I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. But like, you just look at it and you're like, I don't know, if you're in the chat and you've never heard of the Wojak or the Shroom Jack or whatever, look up the Mushroom Wojak or the Shroom Jack, and you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just like this very cheap meme that was created. And if you've seen it, just give me the thumbs up. Let me know you know what I'm talking about, so I'm not sitting here talking to nobody. But they made all these memes about it, and it was, like I said, it was very funny and kind of like goofy and silly. And you watch them and you're like, oh, ha ha ha. And like how memes kind of take wings and they go on they go all over the place. And in the span of a day or two, you might see like every single version of it, every single joke that can be possibly made. They essentially did that with this Mushroom Wojak. And somebody at one point finally came out and said, don't you guys understand what this is? They said this is, and they equated it to essentially an egregore. And they said that this was a demon's sigil, or like a personification of a demon that was created so that people would give it the energy that it needed to manifest and spread, and then further manifest and spread and gain energy and continue to roll on. And that's exactly what happened. And this person who wrote, oh yeah, Megabit says, I like it. I have a bunch saved on my phone, of course. It's funny, but at the same time, if you look at it, you can't tell me that you don't feel like some certain amount of unease. Like, what is wrong with this that it's bothering me? Kind of like deep in my core. And, you know, somebody pointed out finally, they said, this dude who, I don't know, he was doing some kind of like spiritual studies or whatever, and he himself got into a meditative state, and he encountered this, he said that he encountered this being, and that's when he was like, I don't know if he went looking for it or what, but he determined that, hey, this is a danger, this is something we need to watch out for, and you guys are out here spreading it. And so therefore, like, it fits into the same category of these egregores that, and funny enough, is it's like a mushroom, so it has these spores that spreads out, and that's what happened, was it spread out so rapidly, and it was so popular for no reason whatsoever. Like, it was just like a silly thing. It had nothing redeeming about it other than it was silly. And so it was kind of like the perfect egregore in order to spread this influence. Now, not necessarily does an egregore have to have this malintent on the surface, but what it does from there, I don't know. I don't know the divine plan of good or bad. Like, I don't understand either one's necessarily. I just kind of accept that the good is what I need to focus on and the bad is what I need to avoid. And so this bad egregore in the form of a mushroom wojak, like, I realized at that point, I'm like, I need to avoid this. And that's probably no, go ahead, Megabit. This is the last time I want to see it on there, though. Go ahead and share it on the Discord, because, like I said, they're funny, and you guys need to know it, and you guys need to see this shit. I look at sigils all the time. I look at all this stuff all the time. Just don't spread it out from there. But do share it so that people have an understanding of what it is. So I know recently I've talked about, and in recent months, I suppose, I've talked about how, maybe, gosh, it may have been even longer further back. I had talked about how we need to be looking for the demonic in binary code. I said, because I don't know if it was a dream I had or something. I don't know. But like, I, for whatever reason, I had this thing pop into my head where I'm like, what if they're hiding in like modern technology shit, right? Or like binary code. You know, you can break down a picture. If you submit a picture, it can break it down into binary code and all that shit. And it makes sense to the computer, but it doesn't make sense to me. But then you can take parts of that binary code and redo it, or take binary code as it is and turn it into an image, and you can see these images. I'm like, what if the demonic is hiding in this binary code, which is not necessarily visible to, especially like lay people like me. I don't know the fucking first thing about binary code, which is why I mentioned it out loud. I'm like, this is this idea that I had, but I don't know enough about binary code. You guys do something with it, please. Somebody do something with it, because I think there might be something to it. And with all this recently, I'm sure many of you have seen the Dolly Mini, where you can like, or the AI generating images where you can type in like a cat eating a taco on the 47th floor of the World Trade Center, and it'll do its best to create that image, right? The AI will try to generate that image. And a lot of the time it does a really good job. It is able to put something together. There's some stuff that's wrong with it, obviously some blur and some confusing, twisted, contorted features and shit, but it does a pretty good job of reimagining. And what happened that I discovered today is, I and I hate to have to share this image with you, but somebody did it. What I had talked about consulting like the binary code, and then he went further. He knows a lot more about AI than I do, and he did it. And I think, and this is my opinion, I'm not saying that this is definitive. I'm not saying he discovered a demon in the code, but I think that's what he did. All right, I can't prove it beyond what I'm going to share with you, but I found this thread where he talks about what he did to make it happen. And if you've ever seen these AI generator things, he knows a lot more than I do about it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read what he said, like verbatim, because I'm not intelligent enough to know about it. But I want to share this because I think it proves me right to some degree. But also, like, I think that now you need to. I think this kind of like solidifies my argument that you need to be careful, not necessarily just because of the physical issues that we like with the predator catching stuff. We know that the internet is a dangerous place, especially for our kids. Right. Now there's also this true spiritual danger that I think is there, and this guy discovered it. So what I'm going to do, and I got to tell you, these images, I don't mean to like do clickbaity type warning, but like these images are really fucking weird and a little scary. So just be mindful of that while I read you his thread, okay? Let me boot this up. All right. Like I said, I'm just going to read it for you. Isn't that weird, right?
Yeah.
All right. He says, this is some Super Composite is his name on Twitter if you want to find the actual thread, because there's even more pictures on the thread itself. He said, I discovered this woman who I call Loab in April. The AI reproduced her more easily than most celebrities. Her presence is persistent and she haunts every image she touches. Take a seat. This is a true horror story that veers sharply macabre. I wondered, is it the... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I missed a part. I'll explain the negative prompt weights in case you don't know these. With these, instead of creating an image of the text prompt, the AI tries to make the image look as different from the prompt as possible. The logo that he created was the result of a negatively weighed prompt, Brando -1 or whatever. And it created this weird thing. Anyways, so he said, what is the opposite? Is the opposite of that logo in turn going to be the picture of Marlon Brando? So he typed Digita Panatus, which is what the logo showed up, -1, and as a prompt, and it received these off-putting images of this lady, Loab, at the same devastating-looking older woman with defined triangles on her cheeks. And he says, my friend made an image of, quote-unquote, hyper-compressed glass tunnels surrounded by angels in the style of Wes Anderson, which he combined with the image of this Loab, and it created the one, it's not showing right now, but it's the one that looks actually like the closest to normal. I'll tell you when it pops up again here in a second. And then through some kind of emergent statistical accident, it'll be the next image that pops up is the one that showed up. Something about this woman is adjacent to extremely gory and macabre imagery in the distribution of the AI's world knowledge. Since Loab was discovered using negative prompt weights, her gestalt is made from a collection of traits that are equally far away from something, but her combined traits are still a cohesive concept for the AI, and almost all descendant images contain a recognizable Loab. Now, I've not included all of the descendant images. You'll see them, though, if you go to that dude's thread and see it. But because they actually turn into very gory, like involving children being dismembered, but it always has that woman's face, which is kind of like, I don't know, to me it was incredibly distressing. So like the grotesque scenes and the desperation, panic, and sadness they convey, again, these are produced with other images as inputs with no text, and they're a result of cross-beating images of Loab with images of other things, but her face always shows up. Like, it's never like she's forgotten in place of this other thing that, like, you know, sometimes just by chance it would probably overpower this girl's image or this entity's image with whatever he's combining it with. But I'll change it so you guys don't have to continue looking at that anymore. But you see, like, how it's so weird that this dude kind of he accidentally did this thing that I had talked about in the past, and I think he really did uncover something, perhaps demonic. I don't know. I that's just my opinion on the matter. Now, I encourage you to do your own research on the matter, but man, it's like the fact that it's AI just created this, right? And I don't think AI never really creates as much as it draws from something else. So if it constantly is drawing from something, and that's what's constantly pushed to the forefront, I gotta believe that, again, that's something that's there, that's presenting itself or has been caught. And I think that's what when I first saw it, I was like, oh, they caught somebody. They caught a demon, because demons don't like to be caught on camera. They don't like to be caught in image, which is why whenever you see anything that says, oh, we caught a demon on tape or we caught a demon on camera, I instinctively like dismiss it. I'm like, well, there's something, but I don't think it's a demon. Unless they absolutely wanted you to, you will not catch it. So they have that power to not be caught. And so I think that this is an instance where it was already existing in a physical manifestation. Like, you can catch a picture of somebody who is demonically possessed or demonically oppressed, and you could see the physical effects of that, and you can capture that on film. In the same way, I think this demon was hiding, and it was uncovered, and now there is photographic evidence of it. And I don't know, it's we've talked about this before, where I'm like, demons probably hide in stupid animals, right? Like goats or whatever, they just to be lazy, because even when Jesus cast the demons out of that demon afflicted man in the cave, they preferred to go into the pigs, and then the pigs were cast out and they ran off into the water or whatever, or off the cliff into the water, and they died. And then the demons had to go somewhere else. So they have a way of going into livestock to just kind of continue existing some kind of physical life. And if not livestock, in a modern world, there's this opportunity to hide in the AI, or hide in the computer, to hide in this, even like you look at quantum computers and shit, those are physical things that require physical energy. So I think this dude honestly accidentally discovered and caught a demon by surprise got a picture of him. And so that's what I think it is. And it's Stephicus said, those pictures you just shared made my stomach hurt, Tom. Creepy as fuck. And Mike said AI Lilith, which these, like, it's the same thing. When I saw those pictures, and those aren't even the worst of the pictures. That was just like the image. When I looked at that, I was like, something about that image was very unsettling. That figure was unsettling. But then when you look at the other pictures, this dude wasn't combining pictures of that Loab figure and mutilated kids, but the AI, for whatever reason, made it a picture of that Loab mutilating kids, right? And so it's so weird to me. And anyways, I think that's one thing that you need to be cognizant of with not only the dangers, the physical dangers of the internet, with your kids being taken out and lured out, and horrible atrocities being committed upon them, but and also the mental and the emotional trauma that they can experience on the internet. Now you have to worry about this true spiritual trauma that could be occurring to them without them even knowing that the literal ghost is in the machine, right? Like, we're at that point where there are demons being uncovered in the AI, and photographic evidence, in my opinion, right? This is not, I can't defend it like in a court of law.
No, Tom,
in a ghost court of law.
I have to interrupt. Right? We live by only facts here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, none of that's real, anyways. I can't defend it, so. No, but anyways, but yeah, be wary of that, because I think that there's a very real ghost in the machine, is my opinion, and that in itself becomes, I I think that was already a demon, but now it's spreading, right? And I've done my part to spread it, I know, but it was part of kind of like a warning, like you have to see an aborted baby on a poster board in order for you to realize how terrible abortion is. Here I'm trying to present to you, I'm like, hey, here's what you're dealing, here is your enemy. This is some Sun Tzu shit, right? Where you like, now you know your enemy, you need to be aware of him, and now you need not worry about it, because now you're going to be aware of the sort of shit that your kids are getting into on the internet, or you yourself are getting into on the internet. But that is,
or maybe
my take on that.
What is
shit
behind the internet?
What's behind the internet? What's powering? Man, Jerry, please give me your piece on this. What do you got to say about this? Because I know you've got something about.
Well, I mean, I said it was really creepy as anything, but the other part that I thought of was, well, there is this sort of a theory that AI is a manifestation or is a demon or devil, as it can be sort of interpreted, or not maybe not in the physical, but yeah, it's because it's a fucking evil place where the worst parts of humanity come out, and it is a place for us all to criticize and shit talk each other and bring everybody down. Your morality goes down, suicides go up, nearly every, and of course misinformation, lying, all that sort of stuff. The loss of faith, all that, whatever, right? And so the theory could then be that, yeah, the people who created this were potentially, I mean, look, if it is, I mean, we all know it wasn't Al Gore, but there's a theory that the internet was created to allow for not only hive mind stuff, so they could, the controllers can pump out stuff and put people under that sort of spell of believing nonsense and all that kind of stuff, but it's also, it's to create division, to start civil wars, to get people angry enough at each other, because we're too comfortable, so you have to do stuff to mess with our minds and all that kind of thing. So the long and the short of it is, wherever it actually came from, it's absolutely reasonable to then say, from a spiritual perspective, well, is this a satanic thing? Is this an evil thing in our hellscape that we're living in, so to speak? And if that's true, then couldn't it also be that AI, again, in your sort of description, like, oh, it's in the binary code, right? Well, then wouldn't it stand to reason then that there are the power, the energy, the power of demons or the devil, or however you want to sort of put it in the basket? AI is satanic, it is Satan, it is the devil. Then why is it so surprising if you start fucking with the system that the devil comes out?
Yeah.
And if AI truly does have all these sort of feelings that they're like, oh yeah, we have no problem killing people, it would save the earth, right, all that sort of shit that we hear all the time, why wouldn't we believe that they look at us as that? You understand? Maybe that's their actual natural view of what we are to them. We are that ugly beast, and we need to be wiped out. So yeah, be real fucking careful with how you interact on the internet and how you let your kids, for sure. I mean, does it surprise anyone that they used a I almost got a penalty in trouble, very real virus to put all our to put all our kids on internet learning and be away from each other, and does no one remember that we were all not going to work and talking to each other and having that human connection, and instead we were having Zoom calls being bombed by pedophiles and porno predator, people sending pornographic images.
He was jacking off on the Zoom call. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, but that was just you caught a perv. That's not even remember, Zoom was so unprotected in the beginning that you couldn't start a Zoom call without like 30 dicks just being thrown at, So yeah, look, man, I'm willing to believe, fuck yeah, you just got a glimpse into the system. We live in a satanic system. The internet is then, therefore, satanic and evil, and that is what they think of you. That is their manifestation of what you are, or they are. either one, whatever. Either way, it ain't fucking good. How about that? You know?
Yeah.
That's it. That's where I'm at with it.
Well, Jerry, I got to tell you, this show has kind of gone on a roller coaster. We started off a little rocky by me denying the Holocaust and denying Order 66, right? I denied Order 66 ever occurred and that the Jedis were wiped out. But we ended strong with you making the argument that the internet is of, by, powered by, and controlled by, and introduced, invented by, and perpetrated and pushed and blah, 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 by demons or the devil himself. And I think you've made a pretty compelling argument there, Jerry. You guys got to see some scary pictures today. And if you haven't already, we're down to 701 again. We'd like to get up to 702 or 703. So if you could, smash that subscribe button. Jerry, do you have to shill anything before we part ways here?
Oh, well, I just want to give a joke since we didn't get to the whoopsies.
Oh yeah. Let's do the.
I'll just do one as my way out because I don't really promote it. It'd be really weird for me to be like, the internet is satanic. Also follow me on Telegram.
Telegram's the only Kingdom of God place we have.
That's right. Okay, so Tom, I'm not even going to make you guess. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just do it, and this is going to be my sending off. Illegal immigrant in Texas helped wife and her boyfriend smuggle.
Hold on.
Fire. Yeah, hold on. Illegal immigrant in Texas helped wife and her boyfriend smuggle firearms into Mexico, say the feds. And it turns out, Tom, it's true. As I'm sure you might imagine, there are only a few places you could hide firearms and the accessories, right? And so she was. Why was she a perfect candidate, Tom? What do you think? It's because she's got one killer butthole.
I was gonna say, did they put the silencer in there and then she gets scared when she farts?
Tom, here's the other thing. They call it AK Booty Heaven.
That's a SoundCloud rapper's album name.
AK Booty Heaven.
AK Booty. I gotta write that down because that is going to be a SoundCloud rapper's name or something.
Like they said, it made total sense to pull her over because she had one killer butthole.
So Jerry, how much horse semen was there? No. Did they have a party? Did they have a pretty girl license plate? So my question is, an illegal immigrant, helps his wife
and her boyfriend,
and the story is about gun smuggling. Have we gotten to a point where cucking is secondary? Like there's cucking stories, but that's like secondary to the true story. So how have we gotten there, Jerry? Is it because the internet is controlled, created, invented, and pushed and energized by the power of demons and the devil himself, Jerry?
I'm going to go. I think that could be it. Also, maybe putting bullets in your pee-pees tastes really good.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, my other thing that I wanted to say about that was when you said I immediately thought smuggling it in her butthole, as if she didn't have like numerous other pockets to put in. But like I was imagining, but also she might have been able to slide the silencer up. I hate to say the word pussy, so I'm gonna say it like a prude,
vagine.
Right? Like a Puritan.
I always say vagine.
I'm gonna say she put it in her vagina, right? The silencer, and so every time she queefed, it would sound like, and that would be it, right? Because I had to bring the queef back because, yeah, that's the noise. She queefs when she's nervous. All right, so until next time, you all. Thank you for.
There's a silencer in there.
I can't. Yeah, she turns her head and then she goes, and they go, "I knew it. You had a silencer in there all along. Get her, boys." Whatever the Mexican version of the ATF is. I don't remember my Spanish alphabet. Anyways, until next week, thank you all for tuning in and bearing with us as we force you to question your faith and all that shit. So thank you all.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.